Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over a major winter storm that's going to be moving from the Rockies into the Midwest and the Great Lakes and then eventually into portions of the Northeast. Some areas could be getting as much as 12 or more inches of snowfall. Now you might notice that my voice does sound a little bit different, and that is because I'm using a different microphone. My old microphone, I've noticed when I was watching back my videos, sometimes it would level out once the volume got too high. So this microphone doesn't do that as much, and I definitely have to say thanks to my parents for getting me this one because it definitely sounds a lot better, and hopefully it does improve the quality of my videos overall for you guys. So definitely tell me in the comments down below if you did notice it, or if you enjoy the new sound quality. Hopefully it is working well, and definitely I was playing around with it a little bit yesterday, and I definitely do enjoy the new sound quality. I think it sounds a lot better than what my old microphone was. So again, thanks to my parents for getting me this, and hopefully it does improve the quality of my videos. Now, here's the current National Weather Service page, and we definitely have a lot going on today. We have some winter weather advisories in effect for portions of the northern United States, especially over portions of the western U.S., where in the Rockies you're dealing with some winter weather advisories. Those are in the purples and the pinks. That's where you're dealing with winter storm warnings. And then we have winter storm watches in effect for portions of California in those darker blues. We also see in that pink there for New Mexico, that's some red flag warnings, as well as some freeze watches, I believe those are, for portions of Florida and Georgia, as well as some freeze warnings in effect in that lighter blue. And then we have hard freeze warnings in the purple, regular freeze warnings, or those are freeze watches. I believe these are freeze advisories, and these are freeze warnings there for portions of central Florida. And then we have some frost advisories for central Florida as well. So definitely a lot of cold air moving through portions of the eastern United States. We definitely have a trough in the east, and that is allowing a lot of these very cold temperatures to actually make its way all the way down to about Florida and some of those regions, where some of those areas might get into the mid 20s tonight. So definitely will be very, very chilly for those areas. And then we have some lake effect snow warnings in effect for portions of western upstate New York, and some winter weather advisories for portions of northern upstate New York. So here's what the NAM 3K model is showing for a different storm. We're going to talk about that more major storm in a little bit, but I just want to update you guys that tomorrow through about Tuesday, we're going to have a more minor clipper system that's going to move from the Dakotas down into the Great Lakes and the Northeast. This is not your major storm, but I just want to touch base on this one. So you can see that storm originates over portions of Manitoba and Saskatchewan in Canada, and that just continues to move further to the south and hit into the Dakotas and Minnesota. Then we start to see that by about this would be right around 12 p.m. Central Time, and we're looking at on Sunday, so tomorrow we're looking at some of that snow moving through portions of the northern plains. And then as we transition over to the Great Lakes, we do see some heavy at times snowfall for portions of Wisconsin and northern Michigan. That system continues to move through, maybe some rain mixing in on that southern end of the storm, and then it starts to move further into the northeast. As you get a little bit inland of the Great Lakes, and also as you get a little bit of elevation, you might start to get some accumulating snow over portions of the northeast, especially if you live in the southern Adirondacks, or if you live in the Green or White Mountains, where you could be picking up maybe an inch or two of snowfall. And then that system really does start to head out into northern Maine. That would be probably right around Monday night when it's starting to really get out of here. So here's my forecast for that more minor system going from Sunday through Tuesday. We're looking at under an inch of snowfall for anywhere in these regions in the lighter blue, and that's for much of the Midwest into the Great Lakes, and then through some of the higher elevations of the Northeast, where I'm looking at least a dusting or a coating of snowfall in some of these regions. 1 to 3 inches of snowfall here for portions of North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and then down through northern Michigan, and then into the Adirondacks, the Green and White Mountains, and then up through northern Maine. That's where I'm looking at maybe 1 or 2 inches of snowfall in total. And in portions of northern Michigan, you guys might be seeing closer to 3 or 4 inches of snowfall in total out of this system. Now let's start talking about your more major storm, which is probably the reason you clicked on this video. We start to see that we have a system originating out through the Rockies with some heavy snowfall, and that's actually why you have all those winter weather advisories and watches up for the western U.S. So this would be by late on Monday, and then as we get through Tuesday morning, we're starting to see the system really move into portions of the Central Plains. Here would be by Tuesday evening, and we are looking at that system continuing to move further to the north. We do see a thin line of ice precipitation, so that might also be a threat here, and that's definitely something that we have to keep in mind. And then that system continues to strengthen into Kansas and Oklahoma. That's where the low pressure is centered, but the main snow impacts are going to be north of there into Nebraska, Iowa, the Dakotas, and then back through into the Rockies, where you guys could be seeing some heavy snow at times according to the European model. And then that system continues to push further and further to the east. We see that rain and snow line continue to push further to the north, but what we also see is that we have cold air on both sides. We have some cold air on the eastern side of the system, and then we also see some more cold air on that western side of the system, where you're seeing some cold air plunging further to the south. But we also see a little bit of that warm air further getting to the north, and once those two areas collide, that's where you're dealing with more of your ice threat. So definitely pay attention if you live, especially from Iowa and Illinois southwestward into portions of Kansas or Oklahoma, because you guys could be definitely looking at some sort of ice threat with this storm, depending on exactly how it does play out in the longer term. So this would be by Wednesday morning, and then here would be by Wednesday afternoon, and then getting through Thursday morning. We're looking at some of this rain moving further to the east, and so is that snow. We see a sharp cutoff of colder air further to the west of the system, and now we're starting to see some warm air penetrate through the system. We're on that eastern end of the storm from the low pressure eastward. We're looking at some of that rain and very warm air, where temperatures might get into the 60s and 50s as you get further to the south, but then again further to the north, you're down into the 30s and 20s with snowfall falling. So as we get through Thursday morning, we continue to see more of that snow falling, but it does lighten up. You don't see as much, and that's when you start to see, according to the European model, some of that cold air rush in on that backside, where you're actually starting to see some more of that cold air push through as the system's still departing. So you might see a changeover of snow on that backside, and as we continue this forward, you start to see that we do start to see some snowfall push through into portions of Illinois, Wisconsin, Missouri, and you continue to see the system really wrap up, intensify, and leave some heavy snow in its wake. And we start to see a lot of more dry air, but also colder air as the system continues to depart. So here would be by what the GFS is showing, and this would be by Tuesday morning. We're starting to see some of that snow and rain moving into portions of Nebraska and Kansas, and that continues to strengthen, and you start to see more of that snow and rain mix in for portions of the northern plains, and then down through further closer to the southern plains. That's where you're looking at more of that rain or ice threat with this event. And continuing this forward, you start to see that we have that high pressure in place over the eastern U.S., so we do see some colder air there, but we also see some warmer air through the central U.S. where the system is moving through, and that's why we actually see more of that rain and ice. And then we see that snow push a lot further to the north in portions of Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Minnesota there. And then that snow only intensifies. That system moves into Iowa, and we start to see that heaviest snow over portions of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and northern Michigan. And then that system continues to pull further to the north. The GFS has a much warmer solution with this, where it actually changes portions of northern Michigan over to rain, which definitely it's a possibility, but we'll have to see what the other models are showing. The European model is definitely a lot colder with this system. This would be by Thursday morning, where we're actually starting to see some snowfall break out over portions of Illinois, Indiana, and southern Michigan, and then that continues to move further to the east, where you're seeing on that western flank of the system some of that cold air intercepting with some of that precipitation, and that might switch some of that over to snowfall on the back end of this. And then that low pressure intensifies, moves over the Appalachians, and continues to push further to the north, which this is something also that the GFS does differently, where it intensifies another low pressure system that gets a lot more intense, and it actually brings very heavy snow for portions of the interior northeast and portions of the Ohio Valley there. You start to see that low pressure into Pennsylvania with some very strong winds, kind of like a setup with what we saw this weekend, or actually actually this Friday and Thursday, and what we were dealing with that system, where we had very strong winds to the east, we had snow to the west, we had some very warm air also to the east of the system. So definitely this would be a very similar setup if this were to pan out. This would be by Friday early afternoon, and then moving through the evening hours on Friday, the system really starts to depart. Now, here's what the European model is showing for its snowfall forecast with this event, and we can see that over portions of the Midwest and the Great Lakes, we have a very big area of 12 plus inches of snowfall, and that's not really too likely with this. I think you might have to cut these in half, so instead of 12 inches, maybe it's closer to 6 inches, so definitely cut these in half, and that's usually how I like to look at these maps. Cut these in half as you get longer out, and if they continue to show this maybe within 1 or 2 or 3 days of this event, then maybe you could take those values for certain, or at least with some validity. So this is the European model's view of this, and you can see that heaviest snow over Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota, and Wisconsin. But then look at what the GFS does. It still shows a heavy area of snowfall for those regions, but you also see another stripe that's maybe about 100 miles wide, where you're seeing 6 to maybe even 12 or more inches if this were to be the case, and you were to split this in half and cut these totals in half. So definitely there are a lot of different differences with this system. We do have some confidence that these areas will at least see some sort of decent snowfall. Both of the models agree on this, but we don't have too much certainty on the second band, which the GFS has really been liking to show over the past model runs, where you see maybe closer to 6 to 8 or even more inches of snowfall in there. If you were to cut those amounts in half, which is kind of my rule when you're in the long range, cut these amounts in half, because that's gonna give you a more accurate assessment. So definitely we do have a lot of things that we still have to sort out with this event. There's still a lot that can change with this event, and I'll definitely keep on monitoring the system for you guys, and I'll definitely keep on uploading on the system for you guys. So definitely make sure that if you do enjoy this type of content, please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.